What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the Skallywag Tactical Iron Jaw. Now, this is the first knife, or really first time I've ever heard of Skallywag Tactical. I'm still not super duper familiar with them, but apparently this was a knife that they sent Kevin over at Lefty EDC, and he got to check it out and then was able to let us check it out. So, of course, this knife is in via the Lefty passaround group, and it's pretty good. Like, I really like the knife. It's kind of just a no frills, kind of bare bones folder. But obviously, by the name Skallywag Tactical, it is more of a tactical folder. Their company, which I will leave a link to down below. They sell different types of knives, gear, training stuff, kind of like a blend of EDC and tactical gear, which is cool. Looks like they have some other EDC options as well. Maybe in the future I would love to check out. But yeah, this specific one is the Iron Jaw. Very just nice looking blade. You have, so jumping right into materials, you have a black G10 shell scale side here with just some, normal titanium or steel screws. You have a D2 blade, which it is not on the blade anywhere, but I did confirm on the website. There is Skallywag Tactical's maker's mark. Just a nice simple drop point. A little bit of a poon area, but you have a nice fuller up there. Like I said, it's in D2 steel. And on the back side, you have a titanium frame lock. This is not a titanium clip. This is in billet steel, but I mean, it worked pretty well. You have an over travel stop there. You have a lanyard hole in the back. And then, of course, you have that frame lock with a nice bit of scalloping there, a little bit of lock bar access. And up top, you have a flipper tab that is quite pointy, but it works really, really well. And yeah, I mean, that's really it for materials. Like I said, it's pretty bare bones. It's more of, it's more... This is definitely a work knife design, a knife that you're going to carry, again, maybe if you're an operator, if you're a police officer. Now, D2 steel is fine, but for the price point, which we'll touch on later, I would have really liked to have seen it, be a little bit higher end of a steel, even 154 cm or S35 VN, something like that. I'm not sure who the OEM of this knife is. It does not say it on the website. It just, gives a little of a breakdown. It says when you carry Iron Jaw, you're not just carrying a blade, you're carrying a warning. The folding menace named for the pirate who carved his legacy into the oceans with blood and steel, and it's built to do the same on land. The G10 shell scale side gives you grip when it's soaked in sweat, blood, or rain. Titanium frame lock on the back side clamps down like the captain's Iron Jaw, unforgiving, unyielding, unstoppable. The milled billet steel pocket clips keeps it riding low, tight, and deadly silent. This isn't some gentleman's folder. It's a war tool, a survival blade, a nod to the old gods of violence. So, like I said, definitely, more of a little bit of a tactical vibe going on. I mean, it's still a pretty plain Jane design, which is not a bad thing. You guys know I love my plain Jane designs. But give you guys some specs here. So overall length from tip to butt, we're talking about 7.9 inches. We have a blade length of 3.4, a handle length or closed length of 4.5, a weight of 4 ounces. So it comes in weighing, it's those 4 ounces, it doesn't feel like it's that heavy. This is the type of knife where it feels substantial in your hand, and you really, almost like appreciate how substantial it feels, which is nice. Stainless steel hardware, stainless steel backspacer. I guess it says backspacer, but it is just the standoffs. And then the clip is billet steel, which is cool. I've never really seen billet steel be used on a clip before, but give you guys a quick size comparison. So put that there. Of course, we have the Spyderco Para 3 here, and then we have the TRM Neutron 2. So a little bit bigger than those two. Both of these have right around 3-inch blades. This has a 3.4 inch, so a good bit longer there, but still in the same, I would say the same general vicinity, excuse me, as far as, size and specs go. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but I will leave a link to Skallywag Tactical down below in the description if you guys are interested in going over and checking out the Iron Jaw or anything else they have to offer. This is the only variation of this knife currently. I don't know if they're planning on making any new in the future, but this is the only one you can get. Next, we're going to talk about action. So obviously, like we said earlier in the video, you have this really pointy flipper tab, as well as a fuller on both sides in a frame lock. The flipper tab works really well. It's a very snappy, very stout detent. Comes out with some force, and it is hard to get it to fail, which is really nice. And especially with how tall that is on the flipper tab, you just get some great leverage. Now, if you do push down on the lock bar a little too hard, you can get it to lock up and not, or freeze up a little bit. But flipper tab is great. You can use the fuller pretty well. Just kind of dig the pad of your thumb in there. And it's not as intuitive because it isn't a super shallow, it isn't a super deep. It's a relatively shallow fuller, but it does work. Thumb flick, you guys can see, it does pull some like skin off. Not that it hurts, but it's one of those like with how stout the detent, and you have to have like all of your fingers off of the lock bar to take the pressure off. Reverse flick you can do as well, but again, you just have to watch that pressure. It's nice if you get like way down here at the bottom and kind of remove the rest of your fingers and then just flick it out. Again, very snappy detent. And I much prefer, finger flicking and middle finger flicking than flipper tabs. But this one, I really enjoyed the way the flipper tab feels and the way, it operates in your hands. Then, of course, with that frame lock here, drops to your thumb. So micro shakes, drops to your thumb, one shake. With this, how big the slipper tab is, it's never, it's really hard to get it to swing past your finger without basically like leaving your finger like underneath it to utilize or to hit it. So I just typically let it drop to my thumb and then some shakes, or drop to your my thumb and then one shake and you're closed. No blade play, locked up really nice and tight. And I feel like this is definitely, it took me a few days to kind of get like, it's kind of an acquired taste when it comes to the detent, just in the action, just because it is really snappy and you just have to get into a groove of like, as soon as you basically, disengage the knife, it's hitting you in the finger with the flipper tab. So as good as, pointy flipper tabs are for getting plenty of leverage and real estate for the opening, they definitely have their drawbacks when it comes to closing, as it hits your finger, pretty frequently, and that's just something you have to get used to. But as far as the action goes, overall, pretty pleased with it. Very, very snappy, very good, and I think it fits kind of the tactical, vibe of this knife, I feel like. But overall, pretty pleased with the action on the Iron Jaw. Next up is going to be ergos, and I can get all 4 fingers on this knife very easily. It's a pretty thin knife overall. Like, there's not, a ton there. You get a nice natural restriction point there with that flipper tab, a little bit of jimping. You also get a little bit of jimping up top here, which is nice. You can land right on the jimping or land out here right at the top of kind of the poon area before it drops off. This is a very, very comfortable grip. The pocket clip is, pretty flat. You do have a little bit of a point up here, but it's not sharp. It's just obviously the end of the clip. But it's nice and flat, so it's going to ride into the crevice of your knuckles very well. The G10 has a really nice texture to it. It's not, overly aggressive like some G10s can be. It's just good enough to add a little bit of a, enhancement to your grip. But it's slightly contoured in a few different ways, which is nice. So really like that. And obviously the titanium is not a big, not going to be causing any sort of hot spots at all. It's just, feels like PVD coated titanium. Yeah, I mean, this is just again, a no frills, very just simple knife. And that leads to pretty good ergos in my opinion. Very, very comfortable. And I really like how this thing fits in my hand. So no complaints at all with the ergos. And next up is carry. Obviously, whoops. Obviously, you have the billet clip here, non-reversible. So let me get my hank out. Get this thing in here like so. And that's about how much you have sticking up out of your pocket. You guys know me. I really don't like the two screw over top, or the one screw over top, the other screw. I much prefer like side by side or just one singular screw, because you would be able to, get it from here to there. And even that just a little bit makes a difference in my opinion. But as you all know, I've gotten, a good bit better with accepting mill clips for what they are. So functionality or functionable, it works fine. Goes in a pocket okay. You do have this giant flipper, kind of a pocket pecker here, but the jimping isn't like overly aggressive. So you're just going to bounce off of it. I had no issues with it in the times that I was carrying it, but anytime you do have to go, down beside it for change, chapstick, things like that, there is a small risk of you catching your hand on it and pulling it up out. But again, I didn't. Get some nice, relatively decent leverage in there, some space for dropping it down over your pocket. Weighs 4 ounces, which is not bad at all in the carry department. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's nothing crazy to write home about. It's, it's a milled clip, and it does what it's supposed to do, and pretty much what you would expect from the carry is what you get out of it. So I'm not going to talk too long about it. Excuse me. That leads me to my final category, which is price point and would I recommend this knife. So price point on the Skallywag Tactical Iron Jaw goes for $150. And I don't think that that's a great value, mainly because of the D2 steel. Again, I have no major issues with D2. I do think it's a little bit outdated, and I don't know, for one thing, where this knife is made. I don't know who the OEM is. I wouldn't expect this to be made here in the US for that price. It might be. I could be completely wrong, but I want to say it's made overseas somewhere. Now, I don't think that, I don't know. I don't think this is a bad knife, so don't take me by saying that I don't think this is a value, that it's a bad knife, because it's not. I was pretty impressed with it. For a knife coming in, I'll say this. For a knife like this to come in with 12 other knives that, half of them I had been really excited to check out and had high expectations for this to be in the upper half of those ones means that I really enjoyed the knife. I carried this quite a bit. I reached for it to fidget with quite a bit. It's just a cool, again, kind of bare bones, kind of simple knife, but I am drawn to those style of knives sometimes, and I think that this one is really well done. Whoever the OEM is, the fit and finish is great. The build quality is great. Snappy detent, great action, really comfortable ergos, great carry. There's nothing that I can really complain too much about when it comes to the Iron Jaw, besides just not thinking it's a great value. I think maybe for D2, I think you could have easily saved, $50 and had this set around even 100. I know you get like the titanium frame lock, but it's not even a titanium clip. It's a milled billet clip. So just stuff like that. The only thing that I have, and that says something about the goodness of this knife, is that the only thing I have a problem with is the price. Again, I would love to, know some more about the, OEMs of this. Maybe in the future I can. I would love to check out. Seems like they have some other interesting stuff from a, tactical perspective. But just as it stands right now, $150, to me, it's a little bit of an overpay. You can just get way, way, way better materials. And I shouldn't even say materials. You can just get way better steel. And even, full titanium on both sides, not just half titanium, half 210 for, $150 or less than that. So I'll leave it at that. Good knife. Really enjoyed it. Can I recommend it to you? Yeah, it's a good knife. Like, if you like the design and you're willing to spend the money on a D2 blade, absolutely. Now, if I am wrong, which I could be, and this is made here in the USA, I don't see it anywhere. but I don't even see like OEM in the specs listing. So, take that with a grain of salt, but I could be wrong. If I am, I will admit to it. But I just don't think $150 is the best value for this knife. But yeah, guys, this was my full review of the Skallywag Tactical Iron Jaw. Please leave a comment down below if any of you guys out there have heard of Skallywag Tactical. If you have you checked out any of their knives? I would love to hear what you guys have to say about them, because again, this is a brand new company for me and I don't know too much about them. So would love to hear what you guys have to say, but I'm going to wrap this up now. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your morning, evening, night, day, whenever you're watching this, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.